Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. The DRS, a deposit return scheme, was supposed to be the keynote policy of Lorna Slater. It was meant to propel her and Scotland to greater things. But of course, there was two real big problems with it. One, she was rather lazy and didn't do her homework and didn't apply for the exemption early. And two, she's an absolute moron who didn't even consult industry and the experts before setting it up. She just assumed that she knew best and that she knew everything. So it's no surprise that this was an absolute train wreck. It crashed, it burned, it failed, and people were made unemployed, and the company behind it collapsed into receivership, and an awful lot of money was wasted. How much? Well, it turns out it was £86 million. Money that could have been spent on the NHS. But no, it had to go to fulfil the morons' hopes, dreams and aspirations of doing something right. Still, that's a dream that's yet to happen. We'll take a look at this article to see why Lorna Slater should not be in government, because she truly is an absolute imbecile. Here goes. So, shock at Lorna Slater's £86 million bill for failed deposit return scheme as the taxpayers face stumping up. They should send her the bill. It's not the taxpayers' fault that she's a moron. The Scottish Green co-leader pulled the plug on the project earlier this year. Despite assurances from industry, it could go ahead. And this sent Circularity Scotland into administration with a loss of 38 jobs and a bill of £86 million. And there, look at her. I'm Lorna Slater. I'm a moron. That's her. Moron. Anyway, and that 86 million, by the way, is just the cost of the company. You haven't even seen the compensation claims come in yet. It's going to be way bigger. The company set up to run Lorna Slater's failed deposit return scheme ran up a huge debt of £86 million, it has emerged. Circularity Scotland was set up as a private company less than 3 years ago to administer the project that everybody said would fail, because they kept insisting that glass was on it. Their principle being, if we put glass in it, we own the glass, we can make money out of it. And everyone in the industry, like the recycling industry and the glass industry, is saying, no, it doesn't work like that, moron. And then also, of course, as I say, they didn't put the exemption in for the internal market until March this year. Like, at that point, like literally 2 months before it was supposed to go. Now, should have been in day one. Should have been in 2 years ago. No, couldn't do that, because that's what someone with intelligence would do, not someone with a room temperature IQ. Anyway, this whole scheme was ditched earlier this year when the UK government granted an exemption to the Internal Market Act for the scheme to go ahead if glass was excluded, because they did speak to the glass industry. Despite CS insisting that it was not a problem, Miss Slater and Hamza Yousaf opted to mothball the project and engineer a constitutional argument with Westminster, because that was always the plan anyway. Look, we need independence and nothing's working because Westminster. And it's got nothing to do with Westminster. It's got everything to do with a woman with an IQ of about 9 being given a position of responsibility. The DRS was beset with problems, and we've covered these, haven't we? With businesses across Scotland warning it was not fit for purpose. Everybody from day one said it isn't going to work. Many accused Miss Slater of refusing to listen to their concerns. She refused meetings. The glass industry itself requested 3 times to have a meeting about this. And 3 times they were told, no, they're not having meetings. She's pressing ahead without meeting them. 3 times. It's no wonder it was going to fail. It was initially due to be implemented in August before being pushed back to March next year, and eventually it was kicked into the long grass until the UK-wide scheme is set up in 2025, which also won't include glass. Fears have now been raised that the taxpayers will be left to foot the huge bill. Of course they will. No one else is going to foot it, are they? With only CS only having assets of just over 2 million. The vast bulk of the debt is owed to waste management company Biffa, which is due £65 million. It was selected as the official logistics partner for the DRS last year. Other creditors include the German firm Reverse Logics Group, as well as supermarket giants like Aldi, Lidl, the Co-op, Tesco, Morrisons, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer's. The liabilities were uncovered in papers lodged with Companies House and reported by the Mail on Sunday. And that isn't the last of it. It's going to be upwards of £500 million in total once they put all the full claims in. It is going to be massive. Opposition politicians have now said Scottish taxpayers could be expected to foot the huge bill and have blasted Miss Slater, who is the Circularity Minister and the SNP's moron of the day. It's a rotating prize. Everyone gets a go. Don't worry. It'll be your turn soon if you're in the MSP. Sorry, if you're in the SNP. Anyway, Scottish Conservative MSP Maurice Golden said, "We knew the handling of the DRS had been a catastrophe. But these staggering sums make the scale of the disaster apparent, and it's growing." Said the most appalling thing is the scheme's principles had general support, and it's only the astonishingly inept way Lorna Slater introduced legislation, refusing to listen to any concerns or warnings, that led it to falling apart. Because of course not. If you're someone doing your normal job and you've got like a modicum of intelligence, you listen to people, you listen to what experts say. You say, well, okay, that's that. We thought we'd do this, but you're saying that's not going to work. Okay, well, we'll change that to the way you say it will work. We'll look at that. We'll inspect it. Yes. And then you proceed. That's what normal people do. That's what people who aren't completely retarded do. That's not what Lorna Slater does, because she's very, very stupid. Anyway, while others have lost their jobs thanks to the Green Minister's incompetence and obstinacy, she, incredibly, is still in her post. And if the Scottish Government gets involved in financial recovery, who knows where that money will come from other than the taxpayer. They ought to make politicians personally liable for their schemes. I tell you what, there'll be a lot more research done and a lot less risk would be taken. Under the DRS, a 20p deposit would have been added to the price of drinks in cans and bottles. Customers would then take them back to retailers or a reverse vending machine to get the money back. Absolute crazy idea, because it was never designed to improve the environment. It was always designed to raise money for the SNP so they could spend it. That's all it was. Never did it come out as a recycling scheme, which is why when they had the excuse that they could go ahead with that glass, she closed it down, because recycling wasn't the main purpose. It was money. Ms Slater insisted it would be an industry-led scheme. She lied. But drinks producers were left frustrated at her apparent failure to listen to concerns over the cost of the scheme and the inclusion of glass. It would have been some corner shop would have had to pay something like £1,500 a year to be registered on the scheme. They'd never make that money back. It was impossible. It was basically charging out the cost of running government to local corner shops. And they just went, no, I'm not registering, I'm not doing it. And the scheme was always bound to fail. Others argued it would already hit struggling families in the pocket during the cost of living crisis. And when Ms Slater pulled the plug, the industry refused to refund CS, which... to fund. It's the spelling here. It's the spelling. When Ms Slater pulled the plug, the industry refused to fund CS, which went into administration with a loss of 38 jobs. This is the Scottish Daily Express. They don't employ proper journalists who can read. Circularity Scotland funded the drinks industry and was set up to administer the scheme. Other creditors listed on a notice of statement of affairs including the British Soft Drinks Association, Tennants, Coors, Carlsberg, Heineken, Lucozade, Ribena, Heineken Spring. HMRC is also listed, being owed £38,700, while staff or former staff is said to be due £344,000. We previously reported that £9 million of public money had already been put at risk after a loan was taken with the Scottish Investment Bank. Scottish Labour finance spokesman Michael Mara said the SNP Green government's bungled deposit return scheme has left businesses out of pocket, workers out of a job, and recycling rates as low as ever, except of course for glass, which still remains stubbornly high, which is why they didn't want glass being on there. But hey, Lorna, room temperature IQ girl, said no, we've got to have glass, even though it won't work. Stupid woman. He went on to say, there's still huge questions over whether taxpayers could end up footing the bill for this fiasco. They should actually just take it out of Lorna Slater or out of the SNP and Greens budgets. Tell them, just boom, not the taxpayer. Taxpayers should not have to pay for this. It's astonishing Lorna Slater is still responsible for fixing the mess she made of this scheme. This dysfunctional SNP Green government must come clean about what the collapse of Circularity Scotland means and how they will deliver a recycling scheme that works. They are incapable of delivering anything that's worked. Every single thing they've done for 3 years now has failed. There is not one thing, not one area of policy where the SNP Green government can point to, say, yeah, we did that and it works. There's not one. That's because they're all complete and utter morons. The Scottish Government spokesman tried to blame the UK government because of course it is going to. It's saying it's 11th hour intervention. No, your 11th hour application. They worked really quickly to get that through once they'd received the application. Don't be blaming the government for that. Anyway, it said it's left us no choice but to postpone the launch, even though the people running it said, no, you can launch, it's fine. He said, we're grateful to businesses for the investment made. How grateful? Grateful enough that you're going to repay them? Or are they going to take you to court for the money? The Scottish Government remains committed to the delivery of a successful scheme. No, it doesn't. And the investment made to date can be utilised in the future. No, it can't, because a lot of that money has gone forever. It can't be utilised. The debts the company had has gone. They've gone into a company into receivership. Nobody's going to be buying that back. You're going to have to remake those reinvestments again. They just can't help but lying. Lie all the time. All they do. Full of shit, aren't they? Full of absolute shit. Anyway, I'll just stop there and come up. If the taxpayer has to fit this bill, and they probably will, that has got to be the excuse Humza Yousaf has to fire Lorna Slater. To say, look, this is how much you've cost us. People are moaning, we're going to lose this election because of you. You're fired. And then just run a minority government. Done it before, do it again. And might not get as many things through, but hey, that can only be a good thing. Unbelievable that she's still sitting there in a job after blowing 86 million and has got nothing to show for it. And I mean less than nothing to show for it. She's got a huge public debt to show for it, but there's not one thing left. Morons given power, and this is the result. Anyway, I'll leave it up to you. What do you reckon? Moron or retard? It's one of the two, or both, who knows. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. Definitely, if you haven't subscribed, press subscribe. We need to get the message out, and this is just another example of the message we need to get out. The people currently running Scotland are all imbeciles. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and vote them out. Bye.